Before we begin, if this resonates, please like, subscribe, and share. It helps us grow the conversation and meet this epochal moment together, where something new is arising in humanity. Welcome to Portals of Perception and to IHOW, Internal Human Orchestra Work, Episode 12. Beth, Rita, Rob, Eleni, welcome.
Hello.
Well, today we are launching into a whole new adventure, new experiment. And what I would like us to try to do is to actually try to do two in one. To, in the first place, describe the three octaves of the IHOW process, which we simply very briefly framed at the end of IHOW number 11, do that on the front end, and then take an aspect, one facet of octave 2, which is to do with activating new sense organs, or latent sense organs, and subtle sense organs, and work with one quality, with one essence, to bring it to life, to let it activate us, such that this intelligence of that particular quality we will focus on today is patience, will work through us and sense through us, where we become its tool set and it become an expansion and extension of our sensitivity and sensing capacity. So that's what I have in mind. It's an experiment. We haven't practiced it before. We are going to discover it live, and I'm going to, as we evolve this, bring your voices so we get your feedback as we develop this. So how about this as a plan for today?
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me frame this first with several slides. So indeed, the internal human orchestra work, IHOW episode 12, working title, The Three Octaves of Process. We may, however, in the end choose to call it, What is Cosmic Patience? We'll see. And to begin, let me suggest that what we are describing in this evolving body of work is beginning to reveal itself through the idea of three octaves of process. And they are showing in this way, where IHOW octave 1, which is the majority of the work we've started to develop in the first 7 episodes, is about improving balance, improving and enhancing harmony, where we help address all the many challenges of modern living by bringing body, mind, and soul, and yes, along with the physical, the magnetic, the electric, and all the inner lives, into greater vitality and harmony, to enhance well-being, to enhance flow, to enhance vitality and resourcefulness. And here is a slide we used in one of our earlier episodes to just use it as a refresher as part of the location of octave 1, where the human predicaments is something we're trying to bring some of the IHOW practices to address those. So we named that one of the predicament is how crowded both within and without we have become. And so we have started to develop certain practices to create space, to make a larger space for the energy life, for the magnetic and the electric life, inside of which the soul can reach out for greater space. And we also reflected on how fragmented and frazzled we can become. And when we do, we become out of balance in all of our many systems, because one part and one energy center steals energy from another. And that part of the work we're trying to do is to facilitate balance, integration, and resilient intactness to address that. And thirdly, that this state of affairs of being separated, being distanced from sources of well-being, well, we want to, in the work we do, as we work with movement, as we work with sensing inside the human system, we are looking to connect with the sources of energy, sources of well-being, sources of interior presence. And that to address the chronic crisis conditions, we are certainly inviting that in this work we are able to produce soul settlement. And that finally, to address the distorted sense of self and purpose, we are working to regenerate a wholesome sense of self. So these are some locating comments on octave 1. Let me pause here and see if one or two of you want to just spontaneously offer any awareness, any sense of the importance of this work, the value of this work, and how you are sensing into it, please.
So much of our life is spent in just trying to get to where we need to be. And these IHOW practices are generous in helping get to the inner location that then allows expansion out into whatever it is a person chooses to do.
Well, indeed, we call ourselves human beings, but more often than not, we are not human beings, we're human doings. We're more in the doing side rather than the being side of life. And as you're saying, Beth, I once called this the purgatorial preoccupation in the what next, which I encounter a lot with people in the professional space. They think about the next meeting they're going to have. Now they come to this meeting, and now they're already thinking about the next meeting they're going to have. So the practicing of being present and the practicing of accessing presence in being present is so valuable and needed. So, yeah, thank you. Okay. Well, so let me bring the next step. So this is something we're not leaving behind. We want to do more work into octave 1, but we want to increasingly put it in perspective and in context of also the work we are looking to generate in IHOW octave 2, where the focus is on development and on the awakening of subtle sense organs. And this is work we started to develop, I believe, in IHOW 8, where we explored the many levels of touch. So in that sense, in that case, we worked on one of the 5 senses and started to develop the broader vista and the many subtle layers of touch. So what we're looking to in the second octave, octave 2, to build is to reintegrate latent and emerging capacities, and to bring these as part of freeing human life from an overly abstract, overly conceptualized orientation. We describe how so much of what we are now seeing in the experience of life is based on the last 4 centuries of the development of the mind and the development of the intellect, which are very important developments. These are not wrong developments. These are wonderful evolutionary developments. However, the human system is now very much out of balance. And so what we are trying to generate here a series of activities and practices that will help us reintegrate and move away from the overly conceptualized orientation. And also in recognition that we are moving into a dramatic development of the AI technology project, where knowledge and most cognitive processes are going to be delegated and automated to machine intelligence. It sounds scary, and in some ways it's wonderful, in other ways it is scary in terms of what it may cause, because what it means is that increasingly human beings are going to surrender a critical part of their cognitive function and consciousness to machine, soulless machines, machines without soul. So the risk, the danger is that humans will surrender themselves as slaves of the machines. And part of what we are seeking to do in octave 2 of the IHOW work is truly recognizing that what that means is that the next several decades, the next several centuries, beyond the decades, human life is either going to lose its unique capacity and what human life is about and what the line of a sapient human is about in terms of its evolution, in that there are those who will see the silicon-based intelligence to be superior to human. What we are approaching here with gentle but very firm defiance is a recognition that now there is unique significance for human life in the universe, and we want to serve that cause by working to integrate the other modes of knowing, the other modes of sensing and appreciating, and that is the spiritual core and the essence of the intent of awakening subtle sense organs, and that to do so, we're truly inviting the potentizing of the 3 portals of knowing. This is a body of work that we developed in the earlier Soul series, where we recognized that we really are working with 3 portals of knowing. The first is the sensory and the somatic capacity to know. That's where we initially lean on the 5 senses: see, touch, hear, smell, taste, but then also have the other warmth somatic awareness and other somatic registrations, and the balance and movement in space, those variety of somatic capacities. And what we started to demonstrate in IHOW episode 8 was that touch, how rich and how vast is the capacity of touch. We touch different things. We touch soft things and we touch hard things. Then we started to touch also the energy between the hands. And then we extended touch to mental touch. We made even distinction between the mental touch to imagery. Similar, but not the same. So this was us working to expand beyond physical touch to the other latent subtle capacities of touch. The mental portal, where we search, where we inquire, where we connect the dots, where we map, where we codify, reason, calculate, conceptualize, evaluate, appreciate, and bring anything we choose to focus of a specific kind. And today, in this episode, shortly, we will bring a quality into focus, and we will describe various imageries with inquiries around those imageries. And in this case, we will be looking to potentize, and if you like, spiritualize the mental capacity to appreciate a quality and let ourselves be in that dwelling meditation and contemplation and discover whether you are intuitively drawn to just sit with it as an imagery or whether it invites you into posture or movement to incorporate in it the energy system by way of moving through and with the human energy system. So that's the second portal. The third portal is the spiritual portal. And we access the spiritual portal in a variety of ways. Sometimes we access the spiritual portal just through a sense of deep resonance. Something deeply inside resonates, and it's a way the soul informs us that yes, the soul is saying yes, she's saying yes, and she let us know about the unique quality of resonance that she is experiencing. At times, the spiritual portal will communicate through clairvoyance, clear knowing, through communion, through interior senses of knowing, and also through deep sentiments, reverent sentiments, a sense of awe, a sense of reverence, and the naturally arising desire to be of service, to want to offer ourselves and our capacities in service to whatever it is that we are responding to. So the proposal is that by integrating the physical landscape, the mental landscape, the spiritual landscape, as we work into any of those three landscapes, especially when we bring two or three together, what we actually do in those IHOW practices, we do the IHOW potentizing and spiritualizing of these three portals with extra vitality, with extra well-being, with extra connection. So I'd invite that if there is any sense or any intuition or any awareness that's alive in you right now about this, that you please offer it here before I bring the third octave on screen, please. Yes, Rita.
Yes, something that occurred to me was to do with intelligence. And you were speaking about artificial intelligence and the preoccupation with it. And I was thinking, or it came to me, that what we are trying to do is maybe trying to cultivate and research and grow and liberate innate intelligence. Because whether it's sensory or mental or spiritual octaves, it's all something that is innate in the human, whether it's active or latent or dormant. And that maybe at least part of what we do is trying to cultivate it, to feed it, to awaken it, to train it, to practice it.
Yeah, beautiful. So indeed, what you are offering there is that the entire body of work we're looking to develop in Octave 2 has that sense of the innate capacity, the innate intelligence, latent or newly emerging and evolving, subtle and innate, also written in the sense of universal human intelligence. Some universal, latent human intelligence that is ready to come online. And it suddenly feels a million times more important in the context of the large learning models that is processing most of the written and spoken word, and in a way taking over that dimension of the cognitive function in the various AI agents that they are building. But what we know for sure, those AI agents, even though they try to make them polite and behaviorally intelligent, it's purely imitation. It doesn't have human intelligence of the kind we're speaking about. It doesn't have a soul. It doesn't have a feeling. So suddenly, our capacity to feel, our capacity to experience reverence, our capacity to resonate with each other becomes so much more critical and significant.
Yeah, it's actually, if you look at sensing organs, the physical sensing organs, they are meant to make connection with the larger world. And that's a larger world outside, but it's also sensing inside. There's an enormous large world inside that is still undiscovered, unknown. And from that, it's perfectly natural that the mental part in the human starts to inquire. It's the set of words making sense, making sense of something. And I can see that the more this is being improved and expanding, that leads to the spiritual, because how large is the universe and what made it?
Indeed. And then add to this what we're describing in IHOW Octave 3, which is the various practices we will be building to facilitate the update and the connective development and evolution of the larger human function in the universe. So in Octave 3, we're really truly looking at becoming functional conduits for atmospheres, for conductivities, for processes that enable renewal, enable update, enable the development of human capacities to sense, to know, to create, and to have communion with. We're truly describing there, as you said just now, Rob, the whole universe at large is awaiting us humans to connect with its potential beyond just looking through the Hubble telescope far distant into galaxy, which is wonderful that we've developed this capacity. But there are subtle human capacities that are based not in exterior technology, but on the interior human technology. And these are the capacities we are seeking to develop. And partly what is apparent, what becomes apparent in looking at these three octaves is how critical it is that we do octave 1 to enable octave 2 and octave 3, because if we don't have that balanced and well-being, if we are fractured and frazzled, then it becomes a lot more difficult to access the capacities that are latent in octave 2 and octave 3. Well, so with that, let us now, we said we will focus on octave 2, and what this experiment is about awakening subtle sense organs by attuning to the qualities of an essence, of essence and of essence, of specific essences and of essence at large. So, and the one we are about to approach is the essence of patience. So, Rob, I wonder if you can give us just a 90 seconds to 2 minutes kind of a transitional exploration into this with sound, with melody. And let us, as Rob does this, let us try to sense and discover how we experience patience. What is the essence of patience as we begin to approach the study and the sensing of patience, both as a quality that resides within us and all around us, and also, therefore, as we awaken to it, the new latent sense organs and the new, as Rita said, innate sense organs that come alive in the presence of patience. Now, please, Rob. And I should say, as Rob does this, feel free to do this sitting or stand up and take any posture or move in the way that it turns up for you as you feel called to in this experiment. Please, Rob. Wonderful. Well, so let us relax into the study and sensing of patience. And to begin with, I'm going to offer some words. And as I do this case, it's the mental portal. Listen to the words and let those words come alive in your system. And you may want to be sitting or you may want to be standing and you may want to move with the words, and we'll get Rob to play in between those initial 3 descriptions that I will offer to patients. And why do we begin there? Because indeed we are now in the age of the mind, and it is easiest for us to begin to access a subtle quality with language. We will then go and invite more and beyond language, but here we begin. Patience is not passivity. Patience is not inactivity. Patience is even not merely waiting for time to pass. Patience is a living alignment, with the process and rhythms of becoming. Patience is a living, active, fully present alignment with the process and rhythms of becoming. And as you sense with this, I wonder if you can try to begin to sense, well, where in the body do we feel patience? And how do we feel it? Does it have a shape? Does it have a texture? Does it have a movement? And if yes, what kind of movement does it have inside us and or around us? So yes, patience is a living alignment with the process and rhythms of becoming. Patience is active receptivity. Patience is active receptivity, the generative stillness that allows what is true to emerge, allows what is true to emerge in its own timing, in its own timing. Patience allows what is true to emerge in its own timing. Where can we feel this? Where can we sense this? And how do we feel and sense that kind of patience? So yes, patience is not delay. Patience is presence without pressure. A quiet, sustaining trust in the unfolding of life. Patience is not delay. Patience is not merely the opposite of impatience, because what it is, impatience is disconnection from trust in what is unfolding. Impatience is the desire and the compulsion to force an outcome, to dominate, to control. Patience is when we relax these needs, when we relax the restlessness or the disquiet of having been frazzled, when we let go of the anxiety and the worry, and we find the generative stillness that allows what is true to emerge in its own time and timing, when we find presence without pressure, one that is sustaining trust in the unfolding of life. And now let us begin to bring some additional images to help us access additional dimensions of patience in the study and sensing of patience. A seed lies dormant in the soil through darkness, pressure, and cold until the right conditions, humidity and warmth, call it upward. Can you imagine becoming that seed in waiting, dormant in the soil? And you imagine the extraordinary patience contained in that seed as it sits there in darkness, pressure, and cold, arrested in what appears to be inaction, but fully present at the same time in waiting for the conditions to mature when it will be ready to emerge upward. Can we be that patience, the patience of that seed lying dormant in the soil? Can we even imagine that we humans, we are seeds of a latent next phase of development and evolution, and that we are waiting some time in what appears to be darkness and pressure and cold until such time as we may be ready to emerge into our next potential evolution. Travel safe, Eleni. Here is a sample of this seed breaking up through the soil. And let us now build on the appreciation of the patience of the seed with the sensing and the feeling of the patience of a tree as it waits sometime decades to become fully grown. Imagine the young tree, small and young tree. It persistently grows in all directions, deepens its roots, strengthens and thickens its trunk, expanding with its branches. So it is all the time working. And yet we can imagine in our mind's eye that the little young tree contains the knowing and the knowledge of the much larger tree it will one day become. And as it works every day, it patiently awaits those decades and sometimes centuries to become the fully grown tree it then becomes. Can you imagine yourself as that little young tree? And you're working every day, every week, every month, every year, every decade. To become the fully grown tree you are becoming. What is the shape? What is the nature? What is the quality of patience you are feeling in yourself? It appears that Rita's cat wanted to participate in the proceeding, and we can sense and wonder about the patience experienced by a cat and the patience experienced by a dog. Well, how about this new dimension of patience? Can we attune to the capacity to endure pain, kind of pain the caterpillar must endure, and the patience it must find required for the process of metamorphosis within the chrysalis, where the ultimate patience is permitting the quiet death of one form, and with the permitting of a quiet death of one form, the emergence of a new form of a butterfly. What's the patience contained in a caterpillar entering the chrysalis to facilitate the liberation and the birthing of a new butterfly? Well, I have an intuition to let you bring some of your discoveries so far, even before we expand to the next layers of patience. Anything you feel ready to share, Beth, Rita, Rob? How are you experiencing? How are you discovering this, please?
Well, something that emerged in caterpillar contemplation, and it applies with all the other natural examples, is that all these planetary lives are being true to themselves. And in that way, well, I can't assume to know what it's like to be a seed or to be a tree or to be a caterpillar, but I'm wondering whether if something is true to itself and its nature and its design, it's almost like patience is no hardship. It's coded. If you're true to yourself, whether you're a caterpillar, tree, or seed, or maybe indeed a human, then it's almost like patience is part of the weave of being what you are, and surrendering to its timings. And that maybe the degree of impatience that we can detect in our systems might be a measure of how far we at any particular time are removed from actually being what we are.
Indeed, how curious that the whole family of deers just stepped in front of my glass door here. So your cat responded, the natural world's responding to the presence of patience and the peace it holds. Thank you, Rita. Please, Beth.
Rita gave a very lovely example of kind of the internal sensing or state of this. I would speak a little bit to how I could get there. Because to go from nothing to something with patience is a little bit difficult for me. So inside of this, I started with some of the things we did in the beginning, in the first octave, which was to go soft and to listen, and then to start to be curious about, okay, so where is this turning up in my body? Not where do I want it to turn up in my body? Where does this actually turn up in my body? And then as I could get to that, I could go even softer into the energy side of things and began to feel, there's a pattern here. Oh, it doesn't quite go there. I want to do, nope, it's not really there. And there was something that wanted to go with it, and something else kind of said, hang on a minute, come back. It's not quite there yet. Just kind of be with it for a minute. Go quiet. See if you see a shape or feel a shape, and then move with that. And as I began to do that, distinct patterns, small ones, began to turn up. And as you were speaking about a seed or a tree, there's enough in us of the general knowledge of the world to know, oh, it's got different parts. But then there were questions. Okay, so how does that actually get from roots to a stem? And going back to that place of listening and sensing and responding to the timing of something else, offering the intelligence of, oh, these interconnect this way. And this connection into a big tree doesn't happen until the connection into the ground and the stem and the something else, the sunlight and the water and the earth come together in such a way. And that's kind of the central part for me of being able to be closer to patients, is the sensing of those and letting them come together in a speed and a way that let me feel the intelligence of that. So that was a lot of words, but I thought I would describe how I got to it in case somebody else wants to try that.
Two salient awareness points and intelligence path that I'm gleaning from what you offered, Beth, is number one, when we begin to attune to patience, we may initially get to experience everything that is alien to it or antithetical to it, all the lives in us and the residues of impatience. And it's as though to allow patience to presence itself with us, we need to acknowledge, see, and release all those elements, one after another, after another. The second then awareness that I register through your description is that patience is a form of listening. The seed listens. to its ecology to know, listening is a form of attunement. So patience is a very special kind of attunement. Can you describe or register is where in the system, where in the body, where in the aura, or what? Like for example, I know for sure patience doesn't have hard angles. It is something that needs to be rounded and rounded. And there is something about polishing, the act of polishing, that requires patience. So we could literally consider any of the human activities that we are engaged with that require patience. You've got to think, to imagine and think that Michelangelo saw David in the rock and the kind of patience he had to exercise in chiseling David outside of the rock, liberating David from the rock. A part of him must have wanted for David to emerge right there and then. But it's the patience of being with the rock, patience of being with that stone and sculpting and chiseling out all the pieces that are not part of David, that allow David to reveal itself. So what I'm gleaning by listening to that intelligence is the patience is chiseling and releasing what doesn't belong, what's not needed.
Can I add something?
Sure.
In listening to what you were saying and sensing or kind of still the sensation of it in my system, I realized that a lot of what we're letting go of is demand of knowing or have to knowing or have to fill in the blank. And it seems like that's a part of the change that's going on right now with things being born and dying. But one of the new sensing organs is to be able to recognize that and pause long enough, which is part of the patience, to let that shift, however we do it.
You're describing the process we humans embark on when we journey from our conditioning, cultural conditioning of that we train into in our school years and in all the various forms of socialization, where we acquire and assimilate all the shoulds and all the shouldn'ts. And you're describing the journey from those conditionings to essence, and being with essence, being with naturally arising presence of life is a place where we release, where we let go of those conditionings. And perhaps that's one of the reasons why we were called to begin to explore this aspect of the second octave of IHOW, and specifically the journey into qualities and essences through patience. Because, again, I keep saying this process is more knowledgeable and wiser than me. I listen to him. And he told me that we were to begin this with patience, because anything else we're going to try to journey into will require patience. And for example, the way I'm experiencing patience now is there are more layers of patience we were going to reach to in this recording, but I felt that now that is as much as we could get to in this one. And in a minute we'll see if Rita or Rob want to say anything. And then we'll pause, and if time permits, we will do part 2 of the journey into patience? Please, Rita or Rob. Yes, Rob.
Yeah.
The inquiry came up, does everything generates its own patience? You had the different pictures. So there's the picture of a butterfly, and it needs to wait in the cocoon before it becomes a butterfly. Now here in our garden we have hundreds of butterflies, and they all have their own timing. So some of them are still waiting in patience in their cocoon. So what is this patience? Because everything in nature, every process in nature seems to be accompanied by patience. So I had a strange thought. The tree that is now growing, it will be eaten by the insects when it dies and when it falls. How much patience does the tribe of these insects must have before that tree is ready for a meal? And it starts to expand into that. What is this patience actually? Is it where does it come from, or is it always there? Is it a one thing, or is it a multiple thing? Does it have different speeds, different rhythms? These kind of thoughts came up.
Yes, and yes, and yes. That's the exploration we're in. Is this a permission, a plasma of possibility that emanates throughout all living things, throughout the universe, where one of its natures, one of its experiences is one of patience. That's the quest. And I'd invite that we meditate and stay with that for as long as we want. Minutes, hours, days. As we inquire what is the nature of patience? Where is it sourced? How do we humans experience it? What are its colors? What are its patterns in our own experience? Please, Rita.
Yes, just a little bit about the somatic experience of it when contemplating both the words and the pictures. It felt like I couldn't feel it any specific area of the body, but it felt like there was a sense of suspension about it, like suspending your personal speed, suspending your personal urge or thrust. And it was almost like a sense of just very, very lightly suspended and carried, not so lightly that you float away, because it felt quite rooted, quite grounded. And if I were to ask, well, now where in the body did I then feel it? It felt like it was in the spaces between the cells, because it was throughout, and it very much had to do with the space and spaces.
Yes. Well, so how about if we abide with this inquiry and leave it incomplete, unfinished here, suspended, as to use the word you used there, and come back and do more into patience in the next episode. So we leave this incomplete, unfinished, and invite that if you journeyed with us through this, that you take patience for a journey. You take patience with you for a walk. You take patience with you for your next conversation. You take patience with you for whatever next job you have that you need to attend to, and discover how patience feels with you and through you. Thank you. To be continued.
Thank you.
Along with our website at portalsofperception.org, Portals is also available on YouTube and on all podcast platforms, as well as social media. You can become an active member and join the conversation in community events. And you can help us get the word out by liking this content and by sharing it with your friends.